Hi, I'm Neil Berger. I'm the director of Inheritance, and you're watching me on Filmfare.
Hi, I'm Tanzim from Filmfare, and I am here with the amazing director of Inheritance, Neil Berger. Hi, Neil. Welcome to Filmfare.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
Good.
I am so excited to talk about your movie because there's so much. There's action, there's emotion, it's this perfect cast. It's brilliant.
Thank you.
But my first question is, like, we know Phoebe
Yes.
from Bridgerton
Yeah.
and from some of her other works, but we've never seen her like this.
Right.
So what went into making that decision of casting her as this character?
Well, yeah, we'd seen Phoebe in Bridgerton where she's playing a much more sort of conservative, like slightly uptight character. And the character that she plays in Inheritance is kind of a badass, kind of a tough, lost, self-destructive person. And so I was talking to her about it, and somebody had brought her to my attention, and I knew the show a little bit, and I wasn't quite sure, but I met her, and she just had the spirit of this character. I remember because I was talking, we were going to shoot it in a very different way where, normally there's touch-ups and things like that between every take. And I said, nobody's going to be touching you between, you're just going to be after doing your own makeup. And she was like, that's good. I don't like people touching me. She said it like in a really abrupt kind of like rough way. And I was like, that's Maya, who's the character's name. And then it went on from there that she had this toughness into her and this, just this quality and the spirit that I thought was going to be right for it. And she's incredible. Not to mention has the most incredible face to photograph.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Before I get into your experience of filming in India and some of the other parts of the world, Reese is brilliant,
Yes.
and we know him from House of the Dragon.
Yes.
Even there, he's playing a very complicated father,
Yes,
and
yes.
here he's also a complicated father.
Yeah.
What went into casting him, and what were some of the discussions you had with him there?
Well, Reese who plays Phoebe's father in the movie. I've always loved his work, and I loved his quality, and I wanted to cast somebody that we liked and that we kind of trusted. And there's something, he has such an affability to him. He's been in a lot of comedies. He's very funny. And so I guess I wanted somebody that we trusted. The other thing that Reese brought to it, again, we were shooting in a very unorthodox way. We were stealing a lot of shots. We were shooting in places where we didn't have permission. And he was so game for that. He thought it was so fun, and he sort of thought it was like kind of living theater or something. And I think that he made it very comfortable for the other actors who might have been thinking like, should we not be doing this? Is this wrong? And he was like, he's sort of, and he's older than the other actors. And because he was so on board with what we were doing, I think it allowed everybody else to be comfortable with the way we were shooting it, which was a pretty radical and wild, fun, but, risky as well.
Yeah, no, it's amazing when senior actors do that, for
Yeah.
everyone to get on board. How did you also work on the bond between the two? Because again, there's backstory, there's history.
Yeah.
So, but they still obviously love each other. There's
Yeah.
just, so.
Well, we spent time on that. We spent time with them together, and they spent time sort of talking about it. And in a way, they're both, he plays her father, and he's a bit of a black sheep. He's kind of a guy that does sort of dubious things. And she's a black sheep also. She's kind of lost, and she's self-destructive, whereas her mother was more of a saint. And so she's trying to figure out, like, am I my mother or am I my father? But she is much more like her father, sort of devious and deceptive. And, she's a bit of a kleptomaniac, and he's kind of a thief also. And so, I don't know, they just, it was very funny. She was picking out some tattoos that she was going to have like on her hands that her character would have. And she chose this one bird, and it turned out, without her even knowing it, that he actually had that tattoo on him for real. So there was some kind of connection there that was subconscious and wonderful.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I love that. In India, we have a lot of huge spy thrillers are big
Yes.
in India. We have a whole franchise.
Yes.
We have Shah Rukh Khan in it. We have Alia Bhatt's movie coming up
exactly,
in that.
Yeah.
Was it at all tempting at any stage to cast an Indian megastar for this project?
Well, yes, it's always tempting to put, a big, movie star in it. However, what I was trying to do was to have, I was trying to shoot it in a way where we just kind of fit into the surroundings, where nobody stood out really, where you believe that these actors were in these environments, shooting and not shooting, but like that they were existing in these environments, which, we shot the movie on an iPhone, and we shot the movie on an iPhone, not because of a gimmick or just because it was a substitute for a motion picture camera, but because it gave us access. We could walk through a crowded deli market and nobody would look at us because we kept our crew very small. It was really just the cameraman and Phoebe walking through and me maybe just 10 paces behind, kind of watching on an iPad, and nobody paid us any attention. Whereas if you had some kind of Indian megastar, then suddenly everybody would be around us. And what I wanted in this movie was to see the world. I didn't want the world looking at us. So that's what went into our casting and our whole way of shooting.
Did you look at any Indian films at all when it comes to, researching, I guess, for the kind of shots or the kind of locations?
I mean, I look at all films. I looked at Iranian films and Indian films and French films and Belgian films and Mexican films and Brazilian films. And so I try to, be as literate as I can in filmmaking. And then ultimately it needs to be my vision and voice for it, and trying to bring something that I feel like we haven't seen before. But I certainly looked at it, and often you're looking at it because you don't want to do what somebody else has done. Some filmmakers look at it and they want to actually repeat certain shots, and it's kind of like a meta reference to something. And I actually have the opposite. I sort of, if I've seen it before, I don't want to do it. I want to try to come up with something new, which is why, again, the whole way we shot the movie. Other people have shot movies on iPhones before, but nobody's really done this round-the-world international thriller the way we've done it on an iPhone.
Yeah, no, definitely. And also another thing I find interesting, at least specific to India, and is that every time, like the international locations are lit in a certain way, or they're shot in a certain way, and then as soon as they come to India, suddenly you see a sepia tone. Suddenly, there was a phase of movies, spy thrillers.
Right, and the music changes.
Exactly,
and things like that.
exactly.
No, we didn't want to do that. We wanted it, to be very much in her point of view. We didn't want to... It was her experience of India, and her experience of... She was in Cairo before, and she was in Seoul afterwards, and she's dealing with this situation with her father, and she's trying to unravel his personal secrets and his professional secrets and his political secrets on this world stage. But it's a very intimate movie. We're very much with her and in her point of view, even as we are on this grand global stage.
So I actually this was my next question. When you have so much action happening, we still have those tight shots, we still see expressions, emotions, and all of those things.
Yeah.
What is the challenge there of, trying to balance this grand global narrative with, those close-up shots and those moments?
Yeah, well, it's a very good question. Like, for example, there's a motorcycle chase that's in Delhi that we actually shot on open roads in Delhi. And, normally when you see a motorcycle chase, you see like, close-up of the wheel or close-up of somebody's hand on the throttle and wide shots, and we didn't shoot that way at all. We shot really just on Phoebe's face, on her expression, on her experience and her terror of being chased by these people who she has no idea what they want to do with her. So we kept it in a very much of a personal, emotional way of shooting it, rather than sort of a traditional action way of shooting it with all these sort of multiple shots. And I think it's actually more exciting the way we did it, and it's it's certainly a newer way of shooting it.
Definitely. Now that you've been to all of these locations with the cast, was there any point where somebody recognized Phoebe or Reese?
Yes, every once in a while somebody recognized Phoebe, but pretty rarely. We were also very quick. We were very stealthy. We kind of like we would set up somewhere, kind of some sort of base camp that was way away from where we were shooting, and then we would just kind of go to a couple blocks away we were shooting. I would walk Phoebe to a place on the street, and then I would walk away from her, and I would just sort of say, and she would begin, and she'd do whatever she was doing, and we'd be pretty quickly done before anybody sort of understood what we were doing and why we were shooting. And again, we had a very low profile. There were no lights, there was no boom mic or anything like that. They were all just had wires, just like we have, remote microphones on. And so there was none of the kind of all of the stuff of filmmaking that often draws attention to what's going on. So she was just some woman on the street walking, and there's somebody's filmmaking, and then we were gone before people knew. Every once in a while, people were like, Bridgerton, Phoebe Dynevor, and then but often they were they would sort of say it and then just keep moving. So
amazing. Did that also allow you to have some local experiences? Did you and the cast eat the food?
Oh my God, yes. No, we had an incredible experience because we were really under the radar. Nobody was looking at us. Nobody was focusing on us. We could really enjoy India. We could walk through the neighborhoods and just talk to people and get to know people and get to see the place like, I don't know, that you're not really able to do when you're with a big film crew. Yeah, it was great. And yeah, we had a lot of great food.
You've already given us Phoebe in a kurta, which is such a great moment for anything.
Phoebe in a what?
She's wearing a kurta
from
her mother's wardrobe.
Yeah.
So that's already pretty cool for any Desi girl.
Yeah.
Did she indulge in any of the Indian food, any of the Indian experiences?
She did. She did. I mean, I think she really enjoyed it. And we, what was nice is that we were very quick when we were filming, and so we took days off, and she got to travel around a little bit, and to meet people and have interesting experiences.
Thematically, I'm also very interested in how grief comes out in the movie, in all of these moments of just daily life, especially when she's crying over her mother's, objects and her items, and also tell me about exploring that as well alongside.
Well, I think it's a very important part of it. I mean, the movie really starts with the death of her mother and the funeral of her mother, and she is, in a way, all of her self-destructive tendencies come out of that grief. And then her father, who she's estranged from and who she hasn't seen for a number of years, comes and he wants to make amends and wants to connect with her, and she is wary of him, but he's her one remaining parent, and so she decides to join up with him and take him up on his offer to go on this business trip with her. But I think it is all very much a matter of her dealing with the grief of the death of her mother. Everything she does, everything she tries to, when he gets into trouble, that she goes the extra mile to help him because she can't be responsible for the loss of another parent.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Coming to your filmography, you obviously have amazing movies. They all have a separate fan base.
Yeah.
Especially with Divergent, with Limitless. How, according to you, has the action thriller genre kind of maybe evolved over the years? What's the difference that you notice from filming a couple of years ago to maybe now?
Well, I think that the action thriller genre has evolved to be more like action. So even when there are espionage movies, they are now, or TV shows, they're action. They're really action with and the espionage has and the thriller aspect has kind of fallen away. It's sort of like they set it up, but really what they want is the action, which is too bad, because when you think of like certain old spy movies, or like John le Carré, who's the English sort of dean of the great espionage thriller novel, and many movies, there's an intricacy to them, and there's a nuance to them, and there's a really personal element to them, which isn't about action. It's about who you are in the world, and how you navigate trust and and duty, and those sort of things, and betrayal. And I think that that's kind of fallen away from what we normally think of as thrillers, and they've just starting to rely all on action. And action can be great, but I think there's other, these other genres are also important to explore.
Definitely. Also working with someone, like as huge as a Robert De Niro and a Bradley Cooper, and Shailene Woodley, of course, like now she's a huge star. How different is that experience from working with maybe newer actors like Phoebe?
Well, at the time when I was working with Bradley, he was just kind of coming into his stardom, and he was still very open and game, and I think he still is as an actor. And I think really the best actors, even Robert De Niro, who I was in awe of, and couldn't believe I was directing, really wanted direction and wanted collaboration. Not that he couldn't just do something on his own, but he'd want to make it, that director-actor experience, makes it better. So I think the best ones want it. The young actors really want it. And they're so open-minded and so game for doing whatever they need to do to please you as a director. It's really wonderful and gratifying. Certain older actors, they're like, they don't want to do 10 takes of something. They want to do 3 takes of something, and they're not wrong necessarily. They know that they can get it. Whereas a younger actor is like, I'll do as many as you want, so, which is fun.
Lastly, I'm going to ask you, after the experience that you've had, would you like to come back to India to shoot here? You think like it was something that you want to explore more? Yeah,
no, I'm in love with India, and we had such great crew and such great cast, and obviously the locations and the the sort of spectacle that is India is fantastic. And I have different stories that I'm working on with certain people. They're all kind of at early stages, but I would like nothing more than to come back and shoot in India.
And we'd love to have you.
Yeah, thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.